We play against Dijon, and yeah, the bird's opening. I like to play a variation I saw Kasparov played once, where he fought for e5. But okay, now this is kind of Stonewall reversed. However, maybe we have the possibility to push for e5 with f6 and e5 later. But what I can also do is, just to make a counter Stonewall with f5, and we have our bishop outside of the pawn chain, whereas this bishop is inside the pawn chain. So this is quite good for us. C5, okay. Yeah, then I just develop here, and afterwards I play b6 just to crack up the pawn chain here. And as you can see, we are much better developed. I don't want to take here because it just helps white to develop. Here these pieces cannot move that good, so the bishop is locked in, and yeah, well, position with after b6. Now I will just attack the center, and after a5 now he cannot protect the pawn chain anymore, because a3 I can just take and the rook is hanging. This is all the problem because of the bishop here on c1. If the bishop was not on c1, a3 was possible, but here well, let's just take here on b4 and take the pawn afterwards. So we are a healthy pawn up. And we can play c5 later on as well. And we can put pressure on a2. Yeah, let's make it as long as possible difficult for him to play f5. And then we play here on the queen side. Maybe even knight to b6, a4, c3. But I prefer to take with the queen to connect the rooks and then fast push for c5. And as you can see, there's still the problem of this bishop. So let's play c5 now, threatening c4. So if he doesn't take, the knight would have gone to d3, which would be very, very good. Okay, is there a problem with bishop c5 and the queen can enter here? No. Right, so we put pressure on e3. And maybe it's a good idea to bring the bishop to c6, and then we push for d4. d4 and e5. Cannot take, I think, because this diagonal would be very, very strong for us. I mean, in any case, it's good for us if he weakens his kingside position, and I think it just helps us. Okay, let's bring over the bishop either to b5 or to c6. think bishop b5 is also nice, and then we play e5. If he takes, we have the f file. He needs to play okay. Where does he want to move the rook now? What about d4 now? Yeah, I think this feels right. We need to open up the center. His king is so dangerously placed. Yeah, and we can even bring the other rook into the game now. I don't want to even waste tempo to take this pawn here. I think it's much more important now to open up the lines against the king. So taking here on e3 is next move, then maybe e2, also the other pawn to e3. We threaten to improve the pawns. This knight is out of the game, so he needed to play g5 early on, and yeah, just bishop d3, and then we take here on e3. Okay, this does not work anymore, so let's get out of here. And we can also try to enter with our queen on f2. So e2 next. I mean, he needs to move his rook. Okay. Rook f2 check, and queen to b8. What is going on then? We threaten to take on h2 with a checkmate. Is it possible for him to protect the knight? I don't see it. So, and what's your move now? Okay. Yeah, if you look at the position now, you can see that these two pieces, I'm not sure that they move at all in the whole game. I think not. So the whole problem of white was that he didn't develop his queen side, and at the same time a knight on h2 was more or less stranded. So what I did was I opened up lines for my pieces, because I had virtually more pieces on the attack than white did, and I wanted to you know, push forward the pawns. So I didn't care about this pawn, although it was looking very dangerous, because I think the time was also important in the game. So in this position you can see that the problem was, or the difference between the positions of black and white, because I mean the pawn structure was quite similar. He could have jumped with the knight to e5 also, is that he didn't develop his bishop. So yeah, try to get your bishops out of the pawn chain. So this bishop here is locked in somehow by his pawns, and yeah, avoid that you lock your pieces in.